Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. Developments in Russia and Ukraine hasn't spared any economy around the world. In Ghana here, we might have taken some shocks in some areas, but we can't forget about how that is impacting on the supply of petroleum products. Maybe for now we are safe, we are insured, we are immune, but some are saying that it's a never say never situation. And he's, for the past 10 years, steered the affairs of bulk oil distributors in this country. Very soon, he'll be dropping the cup. How has it been for him? Challenging, smooth ride, and what is he going to do next? He's an economist, if you don't know. Senor Hosi, welcome to PM Express Business Edition.
Thank you very much, George.
And how are you doing since the news came out that you're going to step down? You're quite young and young at heart. I mean, some of these things you expect people who've got into their retirement age and say, listen, I'm retiring from this job.
Well, the decision to hang my boots is mine, and none others. I've been looking forward to this time for a while now. So it's a process that's been started, way early in the year. The search for a new CEO had been going on, and it's come to its conclusion. And 31st July will be my last day as CEO of the chamber. So it's no special news to me because I'm part of the creation of the news.
Interesting, because some say this is a job that you've loved so much, you've been so passionate about. I mean, we saw you from the beginning, and the kind of work you do, the sleepless night, you're talking on the phone sometimes as late as 12, 1 a.m., still had to do this job, and you want to really let it go. Or
I don't know how to do things differently. Passion is a very key value I hold on strongly to, and I try to imbibe in my team. And when you are tasked with functions and roles like this particular one, you realize it's a calling to a higher sense of duty, not just to a very small industry, but you're looking at livelihoods that depend on the productivity and the functionality of that industry. The cocoa seller's ability to move from point A to point B also has a lot to do with the success of our function. The ambulance that run past you today, if the functions that I am a part of fail, will also have disastrous implications for the life that it seeks to save. So when you actually see the value and the implication of the output of your work, you can't be passive about it. And for someone who's been at the thick of things, and I've seen a decision that's taken at the policy level, of which I'm a part, and I see its immediate cascading effect. I see a failing, and I see immediate cascading effect. I can't take this job lightly. It has to be taken with all the passion that is required, because it's not just a job to self and to industry, but a job to our country. And that for me is a bigger calling and more important.
So August 1, 2022, you'll be shutting the door to the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, that you could sleep so much and wake up like 10 a.m. and take a cup of tea, or what?
Well, life for me would not be too different. It would be just probably a reallocation of resources, primarily my time, focus, and all. Will be shifting more to my own business enterprises and then endeavors, as well as my social advocacy, policy advocacy that I'm still passionate about. I'm not likely saying a full goodbye to the chamber. I may still be around it in an advisory capacity to help the transition through. I'll still be a member of the Ministry of Energy's Advisory Board until the minister thinks otherwise. I'd still be Managing Director of Legacy Bonds, which is the SPV owned both by the Chamber and the Association of Bankers, to deploy solutions to de-risk the funding of the sector, which I think has become even more critical in these days as a mechanism to sustain supply. So there's still going to be some relationship with the chamber, but not at the fore as it's been, which has practically consumed all my life, in the past decade. And it's time to move on. A decade is quite a milestone, and it's also time for me to deploy my energy in focusing my business enterprises, which have so much potential. I'm quite a restless person with concepts and ideas, so I would need to see them translate into productive action.
So I'll be coming back to you to get more on you about what next in life after CEO of Chamber of Petroleum.
So I still take my tea, but I'm more an espresso freak, or an addict. I still take it, but maybe I may not be waking up still at 10. I still maybe, instead of waking up at 4, maybe I'll do 4:30.
Let's come back to a little bit more into the business that you do, and then even the current economy and all those things. I mean, developments in Russia has definitely changed everything. Coming back home, supply of petroleum products. There have been several arguments being put out. And for some people, it's not about, again, having the money now. Tell me, how is the business now when it comes to the bulk distribution of petroleum products in Ghana? I mean, there have been concerns, people have raised concerns about supply of products, and some people were saying that, listen, you guys are being alarmist, you are speculating. Help me out, Senor. What is the situation as we speak right now with respect to the bulk supply of petroleum products?
So let's start from a global perspective. There's no problem with supply in the world.
Really?
At core. Everything else is geopolitical. So we can have supply. It's up to people wanting to produce or not. So OPEC is managing and trying to optimize the current commercial environment or geopolitical situation. I mean, it doesn't take too much for some of the non-Russian members. Russia is really not even really that much of it anyway. So, yes, you have maybe 12 million barrels that's a bit at risk, but the production is going on and other markets are taking it at heavy discounts. So, it's geopolitical for me. It's not as if the world has run short of oil. It hasn't run short of oil. We just need to decide to produce. But when we constrain production, that's when the supply implications really impact demand. The key thing about Russia is that it's a major source of gas oil globally. So pulling the Russian volume out of the traditional market becomes a bit of a constraint for the environment. So you see some kind of tightness with supply. You may not be able to buy from Russia, subject to who you are, but India will buy from Russia, and almost nobody can do them anything. China will buy from Russia. So that demand and that supply is still within the equation. But the geopolitical pressures around it would definitely have negative implications for price. So prices have gone up. We've had challenges with logistics because Russian vessels also are getting out of the traditional or regular markets. So that also creates a bit of a constraint. And Russia also does a lot more of the dirty fuels than the other European one, because of the European standards have become a bit higher. And Africa is quite a good market for those dirty fuels, like higher sulfur content fuels. So you feel some tightness, but it's more a matter of price, in my opinion, than a matter of supply, ability and willingness to pay. So effective demand is what you're really looking at. And if you have that, you shouldn't have a problem really with supply.
So price is an issue.
There are other things. The price is a big issue. But price started being an issue. That's one thing I tell people. Don't
not a new
Don't blame
phenomena.
Russia and Ukraine for everything. Post-COVID, a lot of losses have been made. Recovery had to be made. So people tightened supply so prices can go up. All right, that's one. Two, you also had stronger advocacy for greener fuels. We started threatening the oil and gas sector, indicating
funding.
that we are going to cut. Funding was already getting out of it. So new projects were struggling with expansion. You know, so it was it's quite a problem. I'm sure you saw a letter from, I think, the API, that's Association of the American Petroleum Industry Organization, putting up something, a letter or so to Biden and telling them their peace of mind. Because in one breath, you are telling us that we should shut down, we are going to go green, you are going to die off by 2030. Why should I be making any investments? There's no point making any more investments. So there's it's always a problem, you know, with that advocacy. That advocacy was always going to put pressure on prices going up, because it's going to make investment in the sector come down. Production will naturally come down. It's not as though the crude doesn't exist or refining capacity can't be ramped up, but you're not creating a long-term incentive for it. Building refineries is not like buying
tomatoes on the market.
Well, tomatoes and selling it tomorrow, or growing rice like I would do in my farm. You know, it doesn't work like that. In 4 months you have a cycle. No, you actually need a long-term outlook, some 20-year outlook. You know, trying to optimize the investment. So you tell people that in the next less than 10 years, this business is off. Why should I keep investing? Who should fund it? And I think that in itself gave reason for the oil sector to take interventions that would ramp up the price of fuel, so that they can optimize their investments now. Because the future seems bleak. So you just think about it. If you were an oil producing country, you are an oil player, what will you do? If they are telling you that we need you badly today, by the next 5 years we don't need you again, in the next 10 years we don't need you again, what will you do now? Won't you optimize your prices?
You cut down your investment as well.
You cut down your investment and you optimize your prices. You understand?
So that is driving the pricing.
That one alone was driving the price. All right, and then Russia just came to make it much faster.
Let's
and
talk.
It was easier because traders are always looking for a reason to optimize their margins. So that was almost a natural consequence of the combined issues of green advocacy, the threats to fossil fuels, and of course Russia's intervention itself.
Since you have mentioned price and looking at a country like Ghana as well, for you, do you think that there's a near risk? Because in terms of competing on the global market for our share from, is it Rotterdam or where, we might struggle. If it's even not now.
We get fuel from the US Gulf, we take fuel from the Arab region, which includes Rotterdam. Some fuel comes from the Arab Gulf as well into this market. There's no problem with the supply. The problem is price and payments. All right, it's price and payments.
Can we compete in that space?
We should forget about arguing price. And I've said this on countless occasions, that Ghana is not going to be a maker of price. So just forget it. You can't control petroleum prices in the world. The only thing you can do is to influence the impact it will have on your economy. Because Ghana is just a market taker. What do you consume? Water. I mean, you are just a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. Just forget it. It's the likes of Saudi Arabia, Russia, the US. These are people producing what? 12 million barrels a day. These are the people whose actions really define the space. Not us struggling 100,000 barrels a day. Today we are 130, tomorrow we can't below it. We don't even know where we are standing. Please, stop overrating yourself. Don't have an exaggerated sense of importance within this global space of petroleum dynamics and its pricing. All you have to think about is policies that will cushion your people from the impact of petroleum price hikes, which unfortunately all successive governments have failed, despite the counsel, the advice that has been given them. Petroleum sector is accounting for about 14, between, depends on which year, between 12 to 14% of domestic revenue. what interventions have we made to safeguard the earth, in particular contribution and impact on the people? Close to none. I've spoken about this, and when we were doing deregulation, I said, deregulation, people are complaining about price. I said, you can never deal with price, because at the end of the day, you have to pay for it. So the evils of deregulation before is what culminated into regulated subsidies which were unbudgeted. It's what has culminated into an ESLA tax today. By now, I think all of us now know that there's nothing free in this country.
But Senor, some have said that deregulation, price deregulation, we're not ready for it.
We were more than ready for it.
Because the current shock,
you were going to be losing
that
$500 million, and where's the budget to fund $500 million?
But if deregulation has worked, some are saying that still the competition to bring about a more favorable price for consumers is not working.
If government was regulating prices today and consumers were paying full price, it will be paying higher than they are paying at the pump.
Really?
Just read the industry reports and you see the MPA price benchmarks. When you see the actual NPA price benchmark, if they were setting it, and you see what you are paying for, I think that you'll be chasing the BDCs and then the OMCs and giving them plaques and awards and even asking them how they do it. I sit here, I even struggle to imagine
how are you doing it?
I think people are just teaming and leading, and a lot of debt is piling up. Very soon there'll be a crisis on that particular part of the sector, and that's why the banks, together with the chamber, have taken a proactive step to look at ways to de-risk and cure this problem. George, you can't buy something at 12 and sell at 11 and expect to make money.
But how are you surviving? You are private firms. You are not for the Christmas.
So there's a very lousy sense.
What is stopping you from pushing to ensure when George drives to a senior service station, I pay for the right price? It's competition. There are over 100 oil marketing companies in Ghana.
There are different ways of doing that. Either you are stealing from the state, or you are stealing from your bank or your financiers. Somebody is giving something. So that's why we have to make sure we properly sanitize the structure, the funding structure, because it's the biggest problem you have in this industry. You have a shortage problem when you actually have a funding problem. The last time we had a shortage in this country is because we had a funding problem created by government's unpaid subsidies.
And that has always been the problem.
In recent times, the close shave that we have had has also been a funding problem because of challenges with FX. And even when FX was fixed, now we have challenges with the pricing of FX. So it's always a funding problem that yields shortages in Ghana. It has had never anything to do with
ability to supply product.
With the product is there. If you pay, you get it. If Tor is making a loss, I mean, at my last check, if I'm not mistaken, company salaries already around 12 point something million cedis a month. Income is generating, it's around less than 5 million cedis a month. What do you expect? You're making losses. Will you be able to pay for your pay your suppliers? You can't. And if you can't pay your suppliers, what will happen? They will stop giving you. What will happen next? If you are the only one supplying, there will be a shortage. Funding is the only thing that causes shortages in Ghana. It is not the absence or an excessive competition for the supply of the product. We can't find it. There's nothing like that.
Senor, what do you tell that man on the street who tells me that when it comes to supply of petroleum products, these are private companies and all the rest? Why is that element of a government intervention still needed when it comes to funding issues, when it comes to payment? Because I'm asking, listen, deregulate the market, allow everyone to go into the market, look for their own dollars, import, sell it at any price they want. If it's good, I will drive to your BDC to get products.
I don't think that should be a problem.
But if it's a problem
but markets fail.
Is the market failing us?
The market is failing. As governments fail, markets also fail. And I think it also has a lot to do with regulation. And when politicians are interested in prices being lower, and they are seeing prices being lower, they are happy. But they need to start thinking, their prices are lower. What's the implication on the sustainability of supply. If you don't find a balance between the two, you cut your nose to spite your face. And I worry for this country, the pace at which we are going. If we don't find energy to really fix the sustainability of these, we're going to have a major crisis back again in the banking sector or within the international sphere, because a lot of our products are funded by them, by the international traders these days. There are huge holes which are being covered by robbing Peter to pay Paul. We have to not just get excited about price. We must be more excited about lower prices. We must be more excited about sustainable pricing, sustainable funding. There's nothing more difficult and painful. Now, you actually having money to drive your mother, your whoever who is in a crisis from your home to the hospital, and you just even can't get fuel to transport the person.
Interesting.
You see, sometimes we are so myopic in our thinking, and that's one of our problems, I think, generally as Ghanaians. We look for immediate gratification. You know, and that kind of orientation must change. We must be very long-term in our operations and our thinking. Thinking of things like sustainability. There's no reason why we can't have an increased sense of security with petroleum supply if funding is well in place. So occasionally, you have logistical problems. Occasionally, there are logistical problems. Like you have a major refinery, something blows up somewhere. That supply is out of the market. You have something happen. Things happen. Because if things like that happen, vessels have challenges. There could be a geopolitical situation, a blockade. So even though there are products, getting the products to your place becomes a problem. So even if you have money, getting it is a problem. But there are also solutions for that. That's why we have our local refineries, which we must support to make them operational, and also with sustainability in mind.
I'll be coming back to you about some comments you made some time ago about we are not paying for realistic prices, whether that could be the way. This is PM Express Business Edition. We're engaging the chief executive of the bulk or distribution companies in the country here. And we're also talking about his 10 years of being the chief executive of this industry. What is next for him? What are the things he will miss as chief executive of this company? And also about the fact that what will be next for him? And how do we deal with the problems in the sector in terms of supplies and even threats to the industry? This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about fuel distribution. And one man who was so passionate about his job when it comes to the bulk or distribution companies here in Ghana. Welcome back from the commercial break. Interesting developments off record. We are now back on set again. I mean, you recently made a call about us paying the right price. Do you think the market is ready for that?
I think the market is more.
If that is going to assure us consistent supply of product.
I think the market is more distressed about shortages or disruption in supply than in prices. I mean, this business is not a business where people just make some crazy margins. People don't.
So there are a lot of people coming in. If it's not that the case, why
everybody comes. There are a number of motives for people coming in.
What is the motive?
It's an avenue for theft.
Interesting.
I mean, that's the fact.
I need to call the BNI.
They are aware. And,
oh, really?
And sometimes the same people who are supposed to protect us become accomplices in it. So,
interesting.
That's the nature of our industry. You look at the main players; they are not much, and you see new people coming to the market. Yeah. They grow so fast and crash so quick, and then leave in their stead a lot of debt to the GRA, to the MPA, to BDCs. What have they done with the money? And not small money. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars. Some in that case, 100 million cedis and above. So you realize that for some it's a whole game. So there's a lot of rot in my industry that maybe accounts for the incentives for people to really come in. But the margins are not so great. There's also a lot of misinformation. That there's a certain expectation of a certain level of return. When I was getting into the industry and was now setting up a BDC in the early days with my principals, their suggestion was that you just make a cargo, you make $3 million or $3 to $4 million in profit from just a single cargo. Wow, this sounded nice. All right, only to go and run the analysis and realize that your best case scenario was about maybe 5% of that, maybe 150,000, or in some cases you just may make $60,000 after spending $30-something million. You may make $50,000, $60,000, or $150,000, and after that you have to pay everybody in the chain. They realize that look, it's not really as great as it sometimes is made to sound. It's not to say that there are any times that people make profits. People do make profits, but the profits are not what people think they really are. In recent times, there are a lot more people making losses than profits, but people pretend. So we keep robbing Peter to pay Paul. So when I owe you, I borrow his money, sell his products, I used to pay you. Look for the next person's owner, I used to pay you. And that's why we want to clean the industry and have inject a lot more visibility and sanity. So those funding the industry can continue funding it. Like I said, what makes the music stop mainly in this industry, and especially in Ghana, is funding. Funding, as in
not from government.
No, not from government. I'm saying that if the chains of financing the industry gets blocked, then you have a shortage. The things that block it were subsidies, because government was not paying. Teaming and lading, like I'm saying, foreign exchange, because if you sell in cedis, you need to convert it into dollars and pay for the product. Whether you buy it from Tor or you buy it from anywhere, you need to pay for it in dollars. Tor does not buy crude in cedis; it buys crude in dollars. Whichever refinery will buy crude in dollars. So you need to be able to convert it so you can actually buy stuff. So FX, if the pricing is not right, if there are subsidies that are not paid, if there are credits from people you give trade credit that are not paying, you block or negatively affect the entire chain. Another thing that creates a problem is the underpricing. You were privy to some conversation, at least you were eavesdropping, having a conversation with the regulator. We're all trying to make sense out of what we are seeing are negative margins. You can't sell a product less than you buy it for. So if so if the world price is 1,400 and you are selling at Ghana's pump, all right, or Ghana's depot at 1,200, where are you getting a product from?
How do you juxtapose the pricing right or paying right for products to the current push right now for government to take off some taxes of petroleum products to make it affordable for you and I?
Look, I fully support the public when they want to make an advocacy
strong advocate out there
for lower petroleum taxes. I think our tax regime overburdens petroleum. But at the same time, looking at our current situation as a country, it is not a fiscal decision that the government can afford.
That must be interesting.
All right, I support the public because they've invested through the sector in government, and government has actually failed woefully in investing back in systems that mitigate distress relative to petroleum prices. Let me take some time to break this down so I don't sound too technical. I think I've been sounding too a bit up in there. Let me come down small. Yeah. See, you are paying taxes every year. We are raising 7, 8, 9 billion cedis from petroleum. The SPT was brought in, and that's giving 2 or 3 billion, I've forgotten how much every year, because we said that upstream revenues were dropping. So we're bringing that in. Okay? Upstream revenues are not dropping, they are going up because petroleum prices have gone up. So the consumers have every case why a tax like the SPT should be gone. You understand? Now, all the money you collected all this while, what key infrastructure investment have you made that will make life for the consumer easier as far as their regular spend on petrol is concerned. So if we had a railway running through Adenta straight to Accra Central, a detour that goes to Circle. We had a rail that was running from Kaswa or Bodjuasi, wherever, somewhere there, Winneba, all the way to Tema, linking these two places. These are the nexus that you actually have. Because everybody will end up passing somewhere around Tetekwashi or passing somewhere around Circle, something like that. Another one running all the way from Misawam down to Circle. People can decide to park their car. Because people need transportation. They don't need cars. We all don't need cars. We need transportation. Cars provide transportation. We have to be careful what we ask for. If tomorrow efficient transportation is actually helicopters, we'll all start flying helicopters. Because there was a time that we were finding efficient transportation being donkeys and camels. All right? And at a point, it was just our legs. So things evolve. But the principle stays. So it's transportation people need. If I can't afford fuel today to move my car, I should want to have an alternative, decent kind of transportation. Do you really have that in Ghana? You don't. Yeah. The trotro would cost more than rail will. Have we invested in a rail network to be able to deliver that? We are sitting here. We have so much power. We are generating so much power. We are paying some millions of dollars for dormant capacity, for capacity charges that are totally unproductive. That power could have been channeled to actually power rail. You understand? Yeah. We won't be losing on that end, but we'll actually be saving. So the cost of trotro for me, or my cost of transportation as an individual, as a regular Ghanaian, will drop. If you like to drive nonetheless, you face the music yourself because you pay the full price of the fuel.
So but the taxes should stay.
Government, no, I'm not saying government, I'm saying that government has failed. And it must admit and possibly even apologize to the people of Ghana. All governments. Since deregulation stopped, $500 million thereabout is being saved to the nation and even more every year. Have we channeled that savings into mass transportation investments that will make the cost of transportation
Were you talking about price deregulation stopping, or what kind of deregulation are you
I said when we had price deregulation started, we had the subsidies off, when subsidies ended, we saved the country money. The sector became net negative to net positive for the state on the fiscal side. So if that is it, why haven't you been channeling investments into long-term mass transportation solutions that will mitigate the impact of petroleum prices on consumers? I raised the issue of electricity. Because if our electricity is being powered by a gas, and it's the same thing that's powering our rail network, all right, if petroleum prices have gone up or down, I won't have too much problem about the stability of transportation cost. We should never mix the two. Fuel prices are not necessarily transportation costs. We must pursue the value we need, which is transportation. If government had invested right, with all the money it was making and saving from the abolition of the subsidy policy, and was investing in mass transportation, we won't be where we are.
Around it.
So frankly, consumers are right. Consumers are absolutely right. They are justified.
So how do we get around it? Do we still have the taxes there, or take it off to bring the prices down?
Our current economic situation, as my friend would say,
so it's not possible.
It's not possible.
How do we get around it?
The minister.
How do we get around it? Senor, how do we get around it? I mean, putting yourself, you are into public policy as well as an economist. How do we get around this challenge? And not speaking as a BDC, we're playing the industry. How do we get around this challenge? Because whilst these taxes need to be maintained to ensure that revenues are assured for government, inflation has gone up today, 29.8%. Fuel and transport fares is a critical factor to this.
Yes.
If you keep inflation or you don't intervene, your revenue is being robbed by inflation. How do we deal with this challenge?
Under the circumstances, one, we all have to agree that we're all going to have to be robbed as far as value is concerned.
So do you...
The state is being robbed. We as citizens are also being robbed. So the robbery will have to happen. The only thing about the robbery is that there must be balance and fairness in the situation. So we must share the pain of the robbery. That's where fiscal discipline now has to come into play. Government's behavior must change. You have taken the money, you haven't delivered the value that should have protected the people today. That's your mistake. But the people now have to still pay for that particular situation. So, what policy do we put in place to minimize the impact
on consumers? If we have to keep the taxes.
If we have to keep the taxes. The number of things, we have to look at a more efficient way of even procuring our products. Where you have 41 people, everybody jumping around the place. You are buying in small lots. You're not going to optimize that situation. So something must give. That's one. We have to look at that particular space. Two, we also have to look at transportation interventions. That will rather minimize the impact on consumers.
Okay.
All right. What's our mass transportation space like? We are facing this trouble today, and I remember having this same conversation maybe some 4 or 5 years ago. And again, I think maybe with you. That this thing we are having a conversation on, and I think was a newsfire. We'll come back and have the same conversation because nobody will do anything about it. So we also have to have a long-term outlook and plan and solution for it. We have to now have a proper policy for all employers. Actually, company employers really encourage a lot more work from home. We have to do it. We can't demand that staff are always present. All right, we have to create flexible working conditions for people because people have to commute to work. But there are some people who, regardless, would have to commute anyway. You understand? So you have to find a balance and start looking at solutions both ways, immediate and long term. Long term, you have to look at mass transportation solution. Okay. We have to run a comparative analysis, which I haven't done yet, on how EVs will do on the cost of transportation versus our traditional mechanisms. And if we have, then possibly it may be one of the things we have to look at because we have surplus power that we are losing money on. The government may have to take a proper policy decision there and see how possibly we could look at EVs to really come and mitigate that particular space in totality. But inflation is not just transportation. It also has food as a major feature in there. I don't think we've managed our agri space pretty well. I'm very disappointed in how we have managed that particular space. But we have to look at how to boost certain key sectors who are quite defining of our eating culture. Rice, of course, is one. Maize is another. And drive them into surplus markets. Surplus markets that will help minimize or drive down the cost of production. Now, the cost of production can only be driven down when we have a very organized structure. We don't have organized markets in our agri structure. I'm in the rice business. I heard the agri minister last time saying that they were going to pass legislation. He should go and open a bank. When he opens a bank, he should start just giving agri loans with this kind of agri environment that he's superintending. And I'm pretty sure he will be the next big case about a bailout or a banking cleanup. You don't talk like that. You must be very analytical and structural in how you want to solve problems. We are not solving our agri problem well. So inflation will not be solved well.
That is feeding.
You understand? And it's feeding into inflation. Massively. Transportation is key. But if you are looking at the people's lifestyle, you can't just say everything is going to be sitting on.
So it might be a good time for us to take a break. This is PM Express Business Edition. As we talk about how to ensure consistent supply of petroleum products on the market. And also a CEO, 10 years leading this chamber of bulk oil distributors. And what is next for him after this post? This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about product supply and also a gentleman that led an industry that ensured that we had petroleum products on the market, Senor Hosi. Now, Senor, I want to get quickly thoughts on the industry issue, and then we get back to you again on Seaboard and life of the Seaboard. I mean, so for you, you were warning about if funding issues not addressed right, we'll come back again to the same banking issues, problems, and all those things. How real is this threat?
It's realer than
How soon?
Your
economic projections and modeling that you do in economic policy.
I think maybe we have another 12 to 24 months for a lot of it to crystallize. Some of it is already crystallized.
The debt issue is still a problem.
It's becoming a big
Your
problem.
debt has been paid right now?
No, government is not a problem in this debt matter.
But what's
the problem really
has
the
pricing rise issue.
It's the reckless competition and also the credit management system, which the market itself is failing to address. And I think that the regulator has a role to play to make sure we sanitize this. I mean, the best legacy for the current regulator would actually be to improve or to sanitize the fundability of the sector. Because that would lead straight to shortage. It's not even... it's not rocket science. The banks are going to walk out on the industry very soon. The IoTs may not be able to take it anymore, but they have to keep running the wheel anyway. Because if they don't, there'll be problems. You know, their books will look, there'll be big holes. Right now, they're just extending credit to us and finding ways to massage it. At some point, the music will stop. And when the music stops, we'll all be standing.
I know you always try to be a little bit, manage sentiments, but what is the situation now when it comes to supply of FX?
Supply of FX, I think we are significantly dealing with, I'm laughing because of what you said, that I always like to manage sentiments. Yeah. I mean, we are effectively dealing with that supply. The problem with FX is almost more a price issue than a supply problem.
Okay.
So at the right price, you get your FX. But the thing is that when you have sold at the wrong price, you are looking for the cheapest of FX. So you're hanging. The central bank is doing south of 7, close to south of 8, for rates. The market itself is doing way above that. So if you sell around the central bank rates, you'll be hoping to recover with a central bank FX. But if you don't, you'll be naked and you'll be making losses. So the only way to cure that is actually to price right. And we are working with models, developing models, working with BDCs for them to start doing the right things. And also working with the treasurers in the country, with the banks, to develop a market that can help them structure and manage these risks much better.
Until I went to your website in the past years to appreciate the workings of the Chamber of Bulk Distribution Companies or distributors, I realized there was a very big industry. What would you tell those who say that they saw Senor Hosi as Seaboard and Seaboard as Senor Hosi, and now that you're moving on, how do we deal with that challenge?
The Seaboard is an institution committed to the ideals. It's been 10 years of service, and the spirit, the philosophy will still be driving the entity. Of course, you're going to have a new sheriff in town who would also have to shape things differently. But the last few years, we spent a lot more institutional structuring to get members a lot more active in the policy guidance and management of affairs. So there's been a lot more activity beyond just the CEO. So I don't think that's a problem. The chamber is still going to be very committed to its ideals, its dealings, and its mandate to actually shape right the trajectory of this industry for sustainability, all in the interest of the national, all in the interest of Mother Ghana, and of course, it's an industry player. So I don't think that people should worry. Senor Hosi is not Seaboard. The Seaboard is its members, and the members are still there. And the members are there as members because they have a mandate to this country. And as this country is there to stand and serve our country.
Make Seaboard more open, an industry that was very closed.
Yes, I never knew why we had an industry so, I don't know, so opaque. An industry that had to serve the country. I didn't believe in that. Transparency is key to accountability and to effective service, and I'm happy we were able to achieve and transform that. With the likes of you being there to support us and give us opportunities to engage.
Because
You've
of
done a great job.
time constraints, I'll say in a minute for you, tell me your highs, in a minute, tell me your lows. You made a lot of friends. You also made a lot of enemies. I mean, we talk about this in senior.
My biggest high is the fact that I walk with my chest so high. Proud and happy that everything I did, both my errors and my wins, I did it with a clear conscience and a commitment to my country. And I'm happy to have served industry, in the process served my country. And that for me is my biggest high.
Your lows?
My lows,
Your biggest regret that you wish you could turn, if you had another opportunity, you would change it.
I don't know what I would have done differently. I really have zero regrets. Are there
The enemies
learnings
you made.
Are there learnings? Absolutely, there are a lot of learnings. Are there things
Because
I'll
of
do?
you're
I'll
so
do
passionate
differently.
about this industry.
Yes, there are things I may do differently, but you learn to do things differently with maturity, with experience, with exposure, which you may not have had at a certain time. So I appreciate every single one of them. I thank God for this. And I'm very excited. You know, I'm excited about my time. I have zero regrets. Lows, yes.
Some
Very
would say.
disappointing times. I must say, when you really fight, struggle.
Times when you thought that,
There
listen,
are a lot
why
of
am I-
backbiting. Look, this is a chamber. Look.
And I mean, this is public. Some would say
Yeah.
high account. But there were times when I knew senior realized that, listen, why am I putting all these stress on myself? I have family to take care of.
Yeah.
What are things to do? Listen.
My biggest of my I don't know whether I still do them differently. One of the challenges I think I have had over the time is my family management. I haven't been optimal around that. I don't know whether I'm changing, but
you're not changing.
the chamber usurped my life. It took every piece of me, you know, every single piece of me. It's time for me to be me. I'm trying to be me, but I hope my family can have me back. I don't know whether they will, but I pray they do. But I would see my low being acts and deeds of ingratitude and backbiting from people you were out there to serve. But it was easy for me to manage. Imagine, I've served 4 different ministers. I've served opposing governments. And people have agenda. This is a very politically polarized environment. And it's everybody sometimes sees me as the man in the middle. And with me their parochial interest sometimes is not served. So at every point in time, I'm a target for even my own constituents.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
So,
and you see all these things, and those things can sometimes weigh down on you.
Drain
But
you.
I am inspired that I am not serving just them. I'm serving my country.
what is next?
So that call is bigger
What is
than somebody's hope to be the only guy in town.
After August 31, what is senior doing?
Not August, July 31. I don't
31,
intend
sorry.
to be here
yeah,
beyond.
yeah. I mean, what are you doing? What are you going to do?
You know, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I've been developing various businesses for a while. I need to focus that. We have an agribusiness called AGL. We do go-go rice. And this year will be one of our biggest years. We are pumping a lot more investments this year. And that has to be managed with strong oversight. And that's, and I'm chairman of AGL. AGL is in Adakru. So we're doing mommy and go-go rice. So look out for that during the Christmas on your shelves. That's one. We also have Tessa Capital, which is a fund management company. We acquired some 2 years ago. We've grown it pretty well now, doing about $150 million in assets thereabout. So it's also a business that my support will be relevant. I don't serve on the board. I don't serve as its management because we try to keep it very professional. We actually keep it very professional. It's chaired by Erikotu, ex-Goldman Sachs guy, and current, I think, GAT CEO. He chairs it with one of Kwame Piani's proteges being its CEO now. It's well professionally run. but I'm sure my influence, my support, my network can be brought to bear constructively to it. We also have some tech businesses we are developing right now, and we also be work with the downstream, coming up with technology to really support that the sector, improve the sector, and also deal with some of the risks that the sector currently face as far as funding is concerned. Quite a number of very interesting technology solutions that we are developing, right from insurance to fintech that we are developing. But that comes under our umbrella, our group called Cleve and Tove. We have Tove Technologies, which also does OEM retails for banks. So we are doing T24 terminals. We're doing Kyriba, the world's largest treasury management system, and a number of technologies too. We are
Some will say from frying pan to frying, but
I'll share with you. Yeah. I'll share with you what Cleve and Tove in a line does. Yeah. We optimize lives and we simplify living. So any solution that simplifies living and optimize lives is what we.
Senor, in a minute, and be as blunt as you can with me. With push for localized refineries, with push, and even people raising questions about the future of the industry broad. For you, how do you see the future of these bulk importers or distributors?
Let's get it clear. BDCs are not just importers; they are distributors. They are export companies. So you see it BIDEX. So importing could be products, it could be crude, it could be anything. Distribution could be products, it could be crude, anything, and so with exports. Their primary task is to bulk lift from refineries, all right, and convert convert products from dollars per metric ton to cedis per liter. Manage that supply chain. That task is still functional.
In 20 years, it will still be functional.
It will be functional. It may be a different person playing it, I don't know. Yeah. But I have always maintained that this country needs to invest in its own refining capacity. I have never been averse to it. I have been a lead promoter to it. In the middle of this Russian crisis, when we were thinking we'll have logistical constraints, you can read all my papers as an advisor to the minister and to the entire sector, even from BDCs themselves. We all are bullish about the need for us to have a functional tool, a functional refinery. And thankfully, there's another one coming up called Central, the Central Refinery. Between the two, most of our needs can be met as a country. So the dynamics for a BDC will change, but the function will still be there.
In 30 seconds, Doc is coming in from GMC to take over. What should we expect from him?
Dr. Alfori is a very interesting guy. He has a different style. I used to be his JCR president, his floor rep too, when we were in school, and he was my classmate. I didn't plant him there. This is an objective process, and I decided not to be a part of at all. The board had to take charge. It's all part of the institutional deepening that we've been working on for a while now. But you should expect new energy, and he's a very innovative guy. And I think that you'd all love working with him. He's humble as well, so you'll get a lot more affability and engagement and insights that you can share both ways. In all, Ghana will be better. And I'm not far gone. I'm still around the corner to support the chamber at any point in time. Already, I'm still supporting the chamber doing other things as CEO of Legacy Bonds, which is owned by the chamber, and then the Association of Bankers. So we'll still be around to support to make sure we can win together as a country.
So what can I say? I appreciate your time so much. It's been great talking to you. It's been almost 10 years of talking to you, and you don't know we are great friends.
I really appreciate our decade
and all
of
the
partnership.
best, and we look forward to great endeavors in the years ahead of you.
Thank you
Well,
so
all too
much.
soon we have to draw the curtain down on PM Express Business Edition as we talk about or spoke about supply of petroleum products on the market, and one gentleman that led an industry that ensured that there was always constant supply of petroleum products on the market. This is PM Express Business Edition. My name is George Wiafe. Have a great day.